Good afternoon.
Is it afternoon?
No, it is not even afternoon. Okay. Welcome to my studio. This is a special spot for me. As you can see, the walls are lined with some of the paintings I've painted over the years. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go around and explain a few of them to you. Here, it was a family vacation in Norway, Larsdal, and we stayed in one of these little homes. It was a youth hostel. That one right there is the entry to a home that I painted and really loved. This I painted for my son Ron.
Why?
Ron wanted a painting, and he wanted tigers, so I decided I'd paint him tigers, and there you are. This is one of my favorites. It's just a little girl and her mommy looking at the goldfish in a bowl. This is one that I probably will give to my son-in-law, Rich, and it's just a deer in the middle of the woods with the light coming down on them. This is one of the first ones I did. And this was, believe it or not, from the cover of a Reader's Digest, and that was a long time ago. But I love these little wrens. A lot of the pictures are a compilation of many different pictures that I have gathered. I would look up and find a basket that I liked and then fruit that I liked.
Did you take pictures? Did you look in magazines?
Magazines. A lot of these I did at art school with my great teacher, Joyce. And but a lot of them I took pictures and did afterwards. I've always liked to draw, since I was a kid. Story once I drew the portrait of Jesus from a paperback, and I was 14 or 15, and they had a showing at the local library. Actually it was the high school library, and so I brought my charcoal on canvas very proudly because it was good. I came home and said that we need to go to this. There's a showing, parents and the siblings to see the artwork of a lot of the kids in the high school. So Mom and Dad and Elma and Mick and I went proudly into the library. Where was it? It wasn't anywhere to be seen.
Oh no.
Because the librarian decided not to show it.
Oh no.
So she put it behind her desk. And that was disappointing, to say the least, for a young kid. Yes, I got it back. I asked her, where's my piece that I brought in? Oh, she didn't have much to say because she never did. Mm-hmm. But she went in her office and brought it out for me so I could take it home. The next incident was I had some neighbor gals that I really liked, but we had fun, we laughed and that. One time we were talking and I said, I want to paint. They laughed their fool heads off. I said, what's so funny? I want to paint. And they just thought that was kind of a silly idea, I suppose, because it never had entered their heads to do the same thing. So I found a teacher and I started painting. My teacher, Joyce, was a wonderful artist, but she was a better teacher. I went there for quite a few years, and she had it in her basement, and she had it 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, and it wasn't a huge room, but there'd probably be 8 of us maybe each time. And she taught me how to paint. She was a colorist also. She had her own palette, which every artist has their own palette because there's many different kinds of blue. There's many different kinds of many of the colors. You choose the ones that please your eye. And she had, and of course we adopted her palette. So made good friends there. She was a wonderful woman, and I learned a lot from her.
Yeah. And by the way, good role model. Pursuing your interests. Because that was a good role model for all of us.
I have had people come up to me and say, I can't even draw a stick figure. And I say to them, I'm not a Michelangelo. I do the best I can do. But if you are interested in this, and if you want to do it, if it's something that seems to be speaking to you, go get some art lessons, and you'll learn. And you might not be in Michelangelo either, but you never know. I took a snapshot years ago of my mother-in-law's garden on the farm. And then I came home and I painted it. This was the entryway to the old house before we moved here. And I loved the Christmas cactus that was blooming, and I loved the light coming in. And so that's always been one of my favorite paintings. That I took from a picture. It's a little Irish boy. I always figured he wasn't feeling very good that day. And it was raining. But he was looking out, wishing he was with maybe some of the kids that were running around out there with the galoshes and raincoats on. This is from a picture too. A picture from a magazine, because my art teacher had files and files. She kept everything. She took a lot of magazines and she clipped out whatever might interest somebody to paint. This is my idea board. Right now you can see it's full of flowers, because that's what I'm into right now. Flowers give me joy. My gardens outside give me joy. I embroider flowers. I'm watching a flower garden show on BritBox. But this is also, I've saved these over the years, and I can't decide if I want to do a beautiful bouquet either with lilacs or peonies. It appeals to me and the colors appeal to me, up it goes. This is a large canvas that I have gridded out according to that grid, and I have sketched in that mountain range. We were on a train trip through British Columbia, and I took that out of the train.
Took that picture?
Yes, out of the train as it was moving. That is a grid. That's what you either do it in thirds, or so that you have an idea for perspective. Yeah. And so I gridded that out, gridded this out, and then started sketching it, the mountain range, and that's all I really have to do. I think maybe I put ground here and maybe areas where the river was running through it. So palette, not a fancy palette. I was taught by Joyce, you just put some aluminum foil or plastic or whatever that, and then you can put your paints on that and mix it with that. And then if you're done with it, you probably aren't done with it, you put it in the freezer in between paintings, because I paint in oil. I love the richness of the color and the paintings. So this is my palette, very useful. And some of my brushes. More of my brushes, more of my brushes, brushes. And
why so many brushes?
Say you start with the sky, because you always start in the top and go down, or else your elbow's in it. So I want to do the sky, so I'll do a blue, a white, a little bit of green, different, and always orange, because you add it because it softens that blue down. So there's formulas actually for every paint. So anyway, decide that you're going to do that. So you paint the colors dark on the top, and then you come down, and then this is and clouds in there too, but then you use this big guy and you go like this with all those colors. The round brush strokes will bring all the colors together, so there isn't stripes. So that's one of my biggest. And there's fan brushes, and there's all sorts of different kinds of brushes for whatever you're working on. And this is where I have kept a lot of my paints. I haven't painted for a while. So I took out half of these because they were dried up. So I have to make a trip to the store and get myself some new ones before I really even start. So that's where I do it. And when you're all said and done, a matte Damar varnish is what we always use to give the canvases the final end. But you have to let it dry from the inside out more or less for 4, 5, 6 months.
Before you spray that stuff on.
Before you spray
and
that
that
stuff
finalizes it pretty much.
It does. Then it dries and that painting is done.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So pretty.
This is one of the first paintings, I think it's maybe the second painting I ever did. And it's a lighthouse. I think it's in Portland, Maine. And
Why do you like it?
I like the clean lines of things. I like the softness, because she taught us a way of painting that was soft.
With shadows and light?
That, but a lot of the blues with oranges in it, and the reds with greens in it. Anything that would take away that, And I like that. Self-explanatory. It's Mama Eagle coming down on her nest of eggs. But I love birds, and I've painted a lot of birds over the years. I love birds, I like wildlife. So anyway, this is kind of one of my favorites. This is the only one I've ever put a plaque on, a brass plaque. And it's called Shore Lunch. My husband and I and another couple, good friends of ours, were fishing on Lake of the Woods years ago. Lake of the Woods is in northern Minnesota, close to the border of Canada. We'd been fishing all morning and we're getting hungry. So we took our boat and we went over to this island, and we docked as best we could on the rocks there, which was, we were younger, so it was easier. So anyway, we clambered on and brought out the stuff we had in the boat and took some of the fish we just caught, walleye by the way, we just caught, and filleted them. The guys filleted them on the rocks. We started a little bit of fire on the rocks, and I think we had beans too probably, and maybe bread, that's about all. And so we had shore lunch. And we enjoyed it tremendously because there's nothing better than fresh walleye right out of the cold water. So anyway, we're done. We cleaned everything up like you do and got in our boat and we're coming this way. And I looked back and the gulls were going to go eat the entrails of the fish. And so I took a picture and that's what I painted. And the little old wooden white churches.
Beautiful.
This is just a still life of chrysanthemums and cherries by a window, which I like that. I've done a lot of paintings by windows. I like that light coming in.
You got really good at that, doing light shadows.
I hope so. I think so. I like the color combinations, which of course are good. The oranges and the greens, they're the opposite of the color wheel. Of spires, and of course this is a different time of year. It's the fall, just before the leaves are going to fall. And well, here's another spire with snow, and this could be any little white church out in the country, you know, like my dad. You know, he grew up in a little white church out in the country.
Usually what, Lutheran churches?
Yep.
Methodist?
Usually, I think they're probably usually Lutheran, but I have no idea. But those are the ones I'm familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah, because down where you grew up, there was a lot of Scandinavians that came, and then they had Lutheran churches.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of them out in the country.
Yeah.
Like I said a little bit earlier, I love to paint birds, not beards.
Beer? How about beer?
Not beer. Beards. Birds.
Birds. Okay.
Of course, these are two egrets. They're starting to leave their protective area with the long grasses. They could be in there and be protected if needed. I love the delicacy and I love the movements of egrets. Flowers has always been a big part of my life since I've been a little kid. And these are iris, and they're bearded iris. Well, this is a grandpa, not my grandpa or any grandpa I know, but a grandpa tending his garden. You can see back here, there's leaves, iris leaves, and there's stuff going on back here. But in this particular spot, he's got his poppies, which tend to blow with the wind and grow anywhere they please. So this little patch was, maybe he planted them, maybe he didn't, but he certainly looks like he loves them. I've combined different pictures that I have to look at to paint this painting. It's in England. It's an English little manor house. But I had an idea when I was in that couch the other day looking at this. The flower garden comes like this. Now I've got flowers right here. I'm gonna get flowers that coincide with the colors in the painting, and I'm just gonna bring it down like the garden just keeps coming.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think so. I'm anxious to try
Super
that.
creative.
Yeah.
We do love England, don't we?
We do. We do.
Why is that?
The gardens and the old homes that are carefully taken care of, and the time for tea that cures and heals everything. And I don't know, the people, the language, the love for conversation, the books that are written by wonderful authors. And the history. I've always read English history, so. Well, this is a portrait I did of my father. Years ago, 10 of us went over to Norway to meet our new little granddaughter. My son and his wife went to a flea market in Oslo, and they came home with this kind of rickety high chair. They didn't have much money, and this is what they could afford. Well, my dad was a tinkerer. He was a fixer. He loved to work on stuff. And so I don't know if David asked him if he would do it, or I'm sure he did. And so Dad sat down in a little kind of an off room, and there was a window on the side shining light down on him. And he sat there and tightened up everything so that it was solid and it wasn't rickety anymore for his great granddaughter. That is my favorite painting of any I've ever done. I really like this one because there's a lot of family history.
Sentimental value.
It is, yeah. I've told Kari, she's seen this painting different times she's been here, but I've told her that this is hers if she wants it, and yes, she does. So someday, somehow, in the near future, I'll get it over to her so that she can have this and her American family, how much they love her. I haven't painted for some years. The last one I did was for my husband's and my 50th, and it was a painting that was like almost 5 feet by 3 feet, huge, and was of the American West. And I called it, what did I call it?
Do you call all your painting stuff?
Well, yeah, Mustang Roundup, I think I called it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I called it Mustang Roundup. That the back is the Red Mountains from around The background are the Red Mountains, indigenous to that area. The front is there's a cowboy coming down here, and there's 3 cowboys with their horses down there camping. And there are wild Mustangs out on a plateau. And so those wild Mustang roundup, they were coming to get some of those horses. And I gave it to my husband for our anniversary, but it's down at the condo. So I varied interest. In between, a little bit before that, I wrote a book, and I had a book published, and a Christmas book. And I love to embroider. So I think with painting, it's a very solitary thing. You're there by yourself. And I don't always want to do that. But I have the feeling bubbling up again. And it's with flowers this time. So I always say I'm expert at nothing. I can do a little bit with everything. So
I can relate to that.
you have, what, 3 in your house?
Yeah, my favorite of all time is Egret one. That was in the family room at the old house. So very good, Mom. Thanks again for sharing all this. Hopefully the grandkids will eventually watch this and enjoy this because it's Grandma.